The following presentation of the Eric McKenna Project is sponsored by no one.
Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.
That's the Rocco Cozza Memorial Chair over there.
I'm gonna bring a nameplate.
Yeah, Rocco Cozza Memorial. Not memorial.
Not memorial, man. What are you wishing me dead?
Rocco Cozza commemorative chair.
Commemorative. That's a better word.
Commemorative.
I like it, man. I like it.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate it. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Back to the land of the living.
Yeah, back to health. Looking good. Feeling good.
Feeling great. Yeah.
I love it, man.
Feeling great. Just doing my thing.
You're being sick's a bitch.
Yeah, being sick's a bitch, but it's and being sick today in today's climate.
Oh my God, yeah.
You know, it's like I was having this conversation with Rocco off camera, and I won't berate it, but we were talking about like the public has some pretty weird standards now, wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
I mean,
If you call them standards,
it's no secret to those who follow me on social media that I've had to diffuse the concern by many people, genuine concern that I was ill, that the weight loss was associated with some kind of morbid scenario, and that's not what's going on. I'm great. The weight loss is intentional. I'm where I need to be, and I'm healthy. But thank you for the concern. Man, fucking people won't take that.
Listen, man,
they won't take that as the truth, right?
Well, again, like I said, off camera, I think a lot of times people say things out of envy. Like, you put in work for 18 months, right? You were consistent. It's consistency to lose weight. Like, that's what it took.
I guess
people just see, well, I can't be that consistent, therefore you can't. Therefore, the only way you got that result is because of some illness or sickness, which is just a bullshit sense of logic. But it gives people a sense of comfort why they can't do it.
I think I don't know. I don't know much outside of the fact that maybe I believe that society has really gotten overweight's a tough word, but probably according to doctors or the BMI scales, probably society's generally overweight.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're used to seeing everybody with more weight on than probably was normal back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yes.
So that's why people are saying, "Oh, you need to eat something. You're and I'm like, I'm good. I'm like, I mean, if I was this weight in 1970, I was just a normal person, or in the 80s, a normal person. Why is it any different? What has changed? Like, why are our standards different now? I understand people are injecting their ass trying to do that, and I understand his body parts are being exaggerated with chemicals. I get that craziness, but ultimately, we really are kind of screwed up with body impression in this country.
Yeah, and I think it's cheaper to be fat in this country than it is to be healthy. Look at the cost of food. Like we were talking about this earlier, right? Look at, if you go to a grocery store, we were talking about the increase of cost on food. If you eat healthy, organic, that shit's went through the roof, right? Cost of meat, cost of vegetables. Processed foods hasn't really been up much, and that's the shit that people eat the majority of in this country. That's why if you look at society,
you mean the dollar menu's not healthy,
right? But think about it, you look at society over time. Like back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, we didn't have access to all this processed shit and lobbyists pushing it, so people were healthier. And I think we just become an unhealthy society, and we don't talk about wellness anymore. Yeah, like we don't talk about staying healthy or being healthy. We have these body images issues, right? So that's a whole other topic over here. Yeah. But like all through the COVID thing, which part of it is why wasn't the discussion swayed toward being healthy? Yeah. Like getting your weight under control, getting outside, working out. Like we need to encourage more of that in this country, and I think that can shift a lot of things in society. But we're just not. We're looking for the easy solution.
And I, it's you have to believe in something. So I want to believe that generally numbers that we get from the CDC and we want to believe in there's got to be a baseline of belief. Of course. So if you take those numbers, how much of the illness was and the deaths are ultimately because of other issues that are exacerbated with the introduction of COVID, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it really, there's no absolutes in the numbers that COVID killed these amount of people. COVID was a contributor to, with some of these folks probably of other things that were festering or already part of their makeup. I would think.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the clients or friends that I have that are in the medical profession or doctors have really all echoed the same sentiment, right? Yeah, if you have something underlying or you're unhealthy, this disease is a bitch. Like it'll crush you. If you're healthy and in good shape and take care of yourself, you may or may not have severe symptoms, but the majority of people will recover just fine from it. And it's, again, that's why, like, I believe we got to do something, right? And the vaccines, whatever we got to do, but we also need to focus on being well as a society.
Yeah,
like we do like reactionary medicine in this country, not preventative medicine. To the simple fact that I had a PCP, that wouldn't test for certain. I think there's just things off with me. Will you test for this shit? Well, no, you don't need to test for that. Went to a functional medicine doctor, took all kinds of tests and found like different deficiencies in vitamins I had, put me on certain supplements. I feel completely different. Just because someone was thinking more preventative. Right. Like, for instance, say thyroid, right? My thyroid was in the normal range. So I'll give you, example of my medical history.
That's what we do here.
Right? But I was feeling like I would get like tired in the afternoons. I started researching, you could have like low thyroid. I'm like, okay. Let me go get that tested. Well, they tested it, and I guess there's a range. I think it's like 1 to 2.5. And I was in the normal range. So a normal doctor would say, you're fine.
Okay.
Their goal was to get me in the optimal range.
Okay.
So they put me on supplements and different things to shift that. And literally within 45 days, I feel completely different.
Really?
The last time I just got tested, my number is up in that optimal range now. So I'm not getting tired. I'm functioning better. I'm more efficient. I'm more focused all day long. There's not that afternoon's lag anymore.
Yeah.
Normal doctor, at least my old PCP, wouldn't even have looked at that.
Yeah, and again, I'm probably not versed enough to speak intelligently, but there appears, from my standpoint, to be a lot of quote unquote heavy-handed traditional medicine, traditional practice of medicine. On the general practitioner side, that has been very reluctant to change, which is insane. Yeah, because technology keeps growing, right? We're finding out more and more things, and you're seeing now pushback on traditional, just quick scripts to solve a problem. That's not good enough, man. Yeah. That's not good enough.
No, not with the technology we have today.
Right.
When we can test for certain things and figure out the root cause of the problem in lightning speed. Like, why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we taking advantage of all this technology that we have in any industry, right?
Right.
There are these old school people, even, I'm a lawyer, right? Even lawyers I've dealt with, they're doing things in such an antiquated way. And it's like, I mean, great, like keep doing it that way. It helps us more.
Right.
But
competitively,
absolutely. But there's I think people have a hard time adjusting to change. And a lot of times, especially in professions, right? Like licensed professions, medical, the law, change is scary because it's like, we were licensed and we were told to do it this way.
Right.
This is different. Are we allowed to do that first? That's the first question. Is this permissible under my license or my ethics rules? Instead of just trying to figure it out, they just say, well, I'm probably not going to do it then. I don't want to take the risk. People become very risk adverse. The older they get, I think they become more risk adverse. And you're not that old, man. You're not that old. But I think like take doctors, right? Like these general practitioners, maybe it's they have this high risk aversion. They don't want to test for certain things or prescribe certain things because like, is this ethical? Is it out of bounds of what I should be doing? And they're not taking that proactive approach. These other doctors are coming in saying, yeah, like I'm going to test you for the first time I went and gave blood when I went to this new doctor, it took 19 tubes of blood.
Damn.
Because they had the test when they were printing out the labels at Quest Diagnostics. it looked like a Costco receipt. It was just like, and the guy that was there, he's like, dude, this is a lot of blood. To the point where on the last tube, the needle came out of my arm because they couldn't get enough. They're like, it's done, it's over. So luckily they had, but that's again, like when I've been to a PCP for years, they never tested these things.
Yeah, and that leads to an interesting topic we can go. So change is so difficult, and also change appears to be even worse in times of quote unquote crisis. The change is very people just push back so hard. Like to me, the pandemic has exposed how close-minded a lot of society is.
100%. Yes.
Yeah. So if you were a closed-minded individual going into the pandemic, generally a very routine-based person, don't like to leave your comfort zone, the pandemic didn't do anything to help you in that regard.
No,
it
not
probably pushed you further into the cave.
100%. Well, think about it. Crisis is change, right? A crisis is change of some sort in society or in a situation. So people that hate change were already dealing with the change the crisis in and of itself was creating. Therefore, they're going to hunker down and change nothing else.
Right.
That's how I look at it. It's like other people, like I love change. Like I thrive off of change. I thrive off of chaos. The pandemic for me opened my eyes to a lot of things. I looked at, okay, this is happening. First couple of months I was completely fucked up. It was just trying to deal with it all. Then you look at opportunities.
I remember that show we did together.
But then you look at the opportunities, right? You start seeing the world differently and saying, okay, the world has changed now.
Right.
What do I have to change to adapt and to be ahead of it? And that's kind of how I looked at it. But those people that really don't like change, and I know a lot of people like that, the pandemic was change enough. So it's like, if I don't have to change anything else, or I can just pull back and get in my hole, that's what I'm going to do. Problem is they never come out of that hole. They're still kind of stuck.
Good point. There's been some very momentous moments, speaking selfishly, in my life that I look back and I say, wow, I was open-minded here to embrace this, and look how that benefited my path.
Sure.
And then there's moments I was like, oh man, that's something that's kind of scary, and that's kind of a, and I probably wasn't served well by we've talked about a few of those.
Absolutely.
I look back at the computer, the home computer. I'm talking like not even from the period of introduction, maybe early 80s to maybe 94-ish. I'm talking about when the web was proliferated, 94, 95, 96. I've said it many times in conversations on this podcast. Had I not been fascinated by what the web was, that interconnectivity, had I not learned, for whatever reason, how to type in high school, how I learned not to be intimidated by computers, the web, and then later social media, just because a lot of my age group, my demographic, was not engaging. Had I done any of those things, like a lot of my age demographic, I wouldn't have had the interesting life, selfishly, that I believe I'm having.
Absolutely.
Because I would have been limited. I look right now at a lot of folks in their 50s, maybe mid 40s, 60s, that are on social media, that all they know of the web is just how to log on to their social media. The web itself, how the architecture of the web, how it grew, commerce on the web. You know, they can log on, they can order through Amazon.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it. I take that for granted because I just, but I know I'm an outlier in that regard based upon my demographic.
Sure.
It's because that web, that I think 94, 95 in history, those two dates are going to go down as being because the web exploded in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And
when I was in college,
people had to make a decision. Like I remember talking to my father at the time, who is 20 years older than I am, and he was just wanted no parts of it. My mother wanted no parts of it. Yeah. So, but a lot of my friends and family were like, "Oh, that's never going to last." That's But it's just that ability to be adaptable. I guess is my point. That was a major. That was a life changer for me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I'm still feeling the effects of that good decision today.
Well, I mean, look, the point of life is to change and to evolve and to experience things. Like I always say to people, I never understand, and maybe I'm cut differently or something, but people that are just very comfortable doing the same thing every day, not learning anything new, not trying anything new. They're comfortable in their routine. Like that's such a hard concept for me to grasp, because to me, I look at life as it's a very finite thing. We have no idea when we're going to be gone. It can be tomorrow. We have no idea when our expiration date is, right? So why would you not want to experience as much as you possibly can?
Mm-hmm.
Because what do people on their deathbeds regret? The experiences they missed, right? So I look at, and there were probably things in my past I didn't do because I was afraid, or I had that fear, or that reservation, or I wasn't as, risk tolerant as I am now. But I just think people need to really get the most out of life, and in this time we get here, take the shot. Like it could go wrong, but it also could go really fucking right. Mm-hmm. And that's what people don't get. Like nothing's gonna change unless you change. Like people, I always hate when I hear people complain about their life or their job, or they're not making enough money. Okay, what are you doing differently? Okay, if you're complaining about not making money, but you are in the office 6 hours a day, well, okay, you're making the money for someone that works in an office 6 hours a day. How about do it for 10? Put 4 more hours a day, and I guarantee you'll make more money. You'll get more clients. You'll do more things. Like it's just people just think the world is just going to give them more if they complain.
The answer is there, but it doesn't. It does generally require, unless you're very lucky. Yeah. Generally require more work.
Yeah. Hard fucking work. Effort, exactly, and that is in my mind, the deciding factor between people who make it or people who don't.
Yeah, the line's probably rather narrow. It's lessons in life about being risk adverse. Mm-hmm. Is the times I didn't take the shot, I guarantee I never made the shot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
You don't shoot the ball, you're not going to make it.
Yeah, that we know for sure. I 100%. May miss.
Yes.
And I've missed plenty of times in my life, but the ones that actually went in were pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah, like it's not a hard concept. And look, some people are blessed with intelligence. They're way smarter than others. Mm-hmm. I just
don't look his direction.
Well, but I just think that like people are always looking for excuses as to why they don't have what they want, or they're not where they want to be, when all you have to really do is look in the fucking mirror. Like, mm-hmm. I know that where I end up in life is due solely to my effort.
Right.
And the people I put around me and the people I choose to surround myself with, the thoughts I think and the actions I take. Right. That's it. That's the only thing that determines it. Other things that happen are just speed bumps along the way or obstacles that I have to navigate. So when people complain about it, and I will challenge someone, I'm saying, well, what do you do? Like, what do you do every day? And they tell me, okay, what have you tried differently? Well, nothing. Okay, well, there's the fucking problem. Like, if you've made the same amount of money and haven't grown your business, but you come in the office at 8 and leave at 3 and go home and watch TV and fuck around all night, don't complain when you're not making more money. Like, exactly. Do something different. Try something. I'm not saying you got to work 20 hours a day. Maybe work smarter. Yeah. Do something different, but people don't. People just want it to be someone else's fault.
Yeah, how do we get here? It's worse now. I believe it's worse now than ever in my lifetime.
It's been worse now than 6 months ago when we probably talked about it.
Yeah, so we can certainly blame the pandemic, but let's face it. I mean, change has always been a tough thing for most people well before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And search. How about this? Do you ever think that it's interesting how it appears, anyways, at least to me it appears, that humans really are in a good amount of humans. I can't give you a percentage. Of course I can. I'm not a statistician. Okay. But it appears to me that a good amount of humans are in the pursuit of an easy life.
100%. Yes.
It's a hard thing to say because, I'm probably open to scorn now. People that think that's a very heavy-handed thing to say, but that's just how my viewpoint of what I see.
I agree. And guess what? If that's what someone wants and they achieve it, that is I'm happy for that person. Where I have the problem is the people that have an easy life, complain about not having more, or complain that someone has more than they do, but don't do the same amount of work. That's the whole equality discussion, right? I'm not talking about like racial equality, just equality in general. When we talk about like, don't get pissed because someone has a fucking Lamborghini, because they worked 1,000 times harder than you did. Now, if you did the same amount of work, did the same exact thing, and you don't have, then there's a problem in the system somewhere, right? But when we get into this whole discussion about being equal, and this person has it, so I should have it too, did you do the same amount of work? Like, anybody can do what I did with building a law firm and creating a great team of people around me. If there's just a path I took, that's a lot of fucking hours.
Well, it comes back to that equality of opportunity.
Yes.
But not equality of result.
Correct. That's exactly
and
right. Yes.
But I think there's somehow that difference between those two statements is really not heard.
No, it's lost. It's lost in the translation. It's lost in translation, in my opinion.
I had Dr. Anthony Davis on. I just was talking to Rocco a little bit about it. We're going to launch the show here in a day or so. He is an economist. He is a statistician, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, professor at Duquesne University. He's got a very successful podcast, Words and Numbers, and he's wrote a very good book called Cooperation and Coercion. Very good book.
I got to read that.
Along with James Harrington. Oh, yeah, fantastic. I had him on, and he said something to me that was just blew my mind. Here is a man of academia telling me that he believes that it won't be long before universities are going to be facing lawsuits because there's going to be an implied guarantee that Johnny went to college and paid this money, but Johnny didn't get the job or the career or the lifestyle that he was guaranteed by going to the college. As far out as that sounds, he's actually believed that liability and that kind of lawsuit is not too far off entering colleges and universities. He thinks that's actually going to happen. I can't disagree with him.
I mean,
I can't disagree with him.
Look, anything's possible. I get that, but fuck, like, are you kidding me? Like, first of all, I would love to meet the lawyer who would take that case, because that's just okay. Like, I don't even know what to say. But again, just because you pay for something doesn't mean, like, again, like, people sell fitness programs and weight loss programs. They don't guarantee you're going to get skinny.
I think that's probably coming too.
Well, yeah, but it's like, that's why they have disclaimers. There's no guaranteed results. Do the fucking work. Like, guess what? Stop eating McDonald's, get off your ass and walk outside. Like, that's how you get results. But again, it always boils down to, and I think the past 2 years has shown us quite a bit, that people don't want to work anymore. Like, I've been trying to hire a new assistant, and just to get resumes, like, it's impossible.
Really?
Like, no one, and I've talked to a lot of my other clients that are trying to hire people, and how hard of a time they're having. They said, we'll get 15 applicants, we'll schedule 7 interviews, and 1 person will show up.
That's crazy.
They won't even call them kids. They just won't show up. I'm like, what are these people fucking doing? Like, how are they making money?
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because I am fascinated about one thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm hearing the news that a lot of people my age demographic, mid 50s, or even younger, a little younger, entering his demographic, 10 years or so. I thought I was reading that a lot of them have been spurred by COVID or the pandemic to take early retirement.
Yeah,
or some of them have literally dropped out of the workforce, and I don't know where those folks are right now.
Yeah.
And people are, and I don't like to use this word, but it appears that people are using laziness or are being lazy right now in a time, and maybe the pandemic pushed them toward that. I don't know. Maybe people that would have never been quite that lazy before the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pandemic has created a lot of laziness in people, in the sense of entitlement, right? They got all this money for so long. Well, now they come out and that money's dried up, but they think they're still entitled to make that amount of money. And I think there's just,
how are they surviving? Like, I don't get it. Like,
I don't have any idea.
It doesn't make any sense to me, because I know there was unemployment benefits extended for a period of time. I know there was business loans available, but that's not what I'm referring to. Like, how does the person, let's say a salaried person, I don't know. Let's just say mid-level manager, XYZ company, 53 years old.
Yep.
2 kids, wife, family, a whole bit. What you would deem to be a lower to middle class family, right? I hate those classifications. How does he or she just stop and then just,
that's the hardest thing to understand,
and not continue? Like, where's the money funnel coming? Because I'm not aware of those government programs that are paying those people.
Yeah.
Are they out there? I'm
not aware of them. I'm not aware of them either. And that's what's always fascinated me. Like, okay, because you go to restaurants and they'll say like, hey, we can't put people over here next, we don't have enough servers. Like, where did all the workers go? Like, where,
how are they surviving is my thing. Like,
and it's, and yeah, I mean, people are even paying more now to try and get people. But the problem I also have is you have these unrealistic expectations of what a person's value is. You have these, workers that haven't had any real job experience but think they should be making 60, 70 grand a year.
We have exaggerated self-importance in this society.
Yes.
Like, there's no question about it.
Yeah, I will say I will always pay you what you're worth.
Right.
But prove to me you're worth it. Until then, I'm going to pay you what I pay you. And we do have this sense, like this inflated sense of value, when it's like, what have you done to prove yourself? Like, where are your battle scars?
Jim Rohn had this phrase he said decades ago, and he said that there's 2 philosophies in regards to employee and employer. Oftentimes, the employee believes they are paid for the hour. They're paid for the showing up and being there and doing what they're told within the hour. The employer is looking at it, that hour, is what value, what's the quality that's being brought to me during that hour, and I will pay appropriately. And his thought was, what he tried to tell young people was that you're paid for the value you bring to the hour, not the hour. You're not paid for the hour.
Right.
And if you're in a position that you're literally just being paid for the time of being there, if you stay there long enough, your philosophy will become set, and you will be limited as to where you can go, what you can afford, and what you can experience. If you don't grasp on early that it's the value you bring to the hour that matters.
So, I mean, that is the most accurate statement that so many people just don't understand. Because to me, it's like, like, this is your hourly rate, right? But I'm paying you for what you bring to me during that hour. Like, you got to show me value. I can get anybody to do X. I want someone that can do X times whatever. It's a different mindset, but it's the employee-employer mindset, right? Employers or entrepreneurs think differently than people that are just happy being employees, right? So some people you'll never change, I believe. Some people are they're happy being employees. They're happy punching a time card. Pay me for the hour.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. Not at all in the least. But again, you have these people that then if that's how you think, then understand that that's your value. Like, don't think, if that's how you think and you're just there to punch a clock, but all of a sudden you should be making $100 an hour.
Right.
It's not going to happen. Like, people that are, I don't know where I would say the threshold is, but maybe in this market we'll just use as an example, say $30,000. Like, $30,000 and under, you're getting paid for the hour. You're a body to perform a task. Once you start paying someone over that amount of money, you start paying them for the value they bring, I believe.
No doubt.
If I'm paying someone $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year, I don't care how many hours they work.
Right.
I'm paying them for that amount of value.
Right.
Whether it takes them 40 hours in a week, 60 hours in a week, or 30 hours a week to get the task done and bring that value to me, that's on them. Now, if they want to make more, they'll give me more for that money. Then I'll say, oh, your value has increased, right? If I equate paying someone 50 grand a year for X amount of work, and they always give me X amount of work in that time, that's what they're worth. But if they come in and prove that, hey, I'm worth more than that, they'll get paid more than that. It's simple math.
Yeah, that and this is it's a little dangerous slope to go down, but I have no problem doing it. It's really the reason why, for most of my adult life, I did not want to ever work in a union environment. It was not that I think that union members are bad people. Not that I think that union leaders are bad people. That it's not about any of that.
No.
There's no emotion involved in my decision. My decision was basically that if I was going to experiencing things in life, different kinds of things, and also find a pathway to either grow something amazing or get into an organization and do amazing things for that organization, grow a career, it wasn't going to be done by demand.
Right.
I'm not going to demand that because I'm here and part of this group of employees, I want $17 an hour.
Right.
I don't want an employer to look at me as the adversary. And I think that's kind of what, by the nature of the whole thing, management union, there's an adversarial thing there. I didn't want to work by demand or get paid by demand.
Yeah.
It's just a philosophy difference. I'm not, again, everybody can make their own decision before you start throwing the darts, okay? Sure. I'm just speaking for me. It's a different philosophy. And if you don't articulate that right, people can get offended.
Yeah.
But it really, to a young person, I would be very, I think if you encourage to a young person, Rocco, a union environment, I think you are encouraging limitations on their ability and their ability to see what could be there for them.
Absolutely. Well, look why unions started, right? I think that has got lost with years. Unions were started for the health and safety of workers.
Mines, right?
Yeah,
Mines.
It was not about pay. It was about we need to make sure the employers, we need to collectively come together as a group to make sure we are put in a safe working environment. That was the whole point. And then you had some union leaders get involved, not the people, the leaders, and saw, oh, we can get more out of this. Like, we can take advantage of this. And then employers were starting to be assholes about it. So both sides are at fault. I think unions have a purpose, and the foundation of why unions were created is the purpose for what they're for, and that should always be the case. Like, if an employer is not creating a good working environment, yes, people should absolutely fucking do that to strengthen numbers. But it's also went a couple steps too far, in my opinion. Like, there's got to be a better way. And to your point, like, that mentality, I think it's hard with young people. Like, I have a 20-year-old son, right? And he's got work ethic. He's smart, and I think he gets it. But it's you don't know, right? Because the society is so different right now.
I know.
And people see all this, it's easy. It should be easy. I should be making $1 million. I should be getting this. I should be getting this. I'm entitled to this. Like, no. Like, you've got to work your ass off.
When you say entitled, help me understand. They're entitled to this stuff from who?
Well, no one can answer that question. That's the problem, right? They just think, well, if he has it, I should have it too. It's not fair. So
where did that come from? Like, where did that mindset come from?
Great fucking question. I have no idea. But that's what you see out there, right? That's the part of the equality argument. Well, if he has it, I should too. They don't want to give the person the credit for working the 20 years to get there. It's just, you have it. That's not fair. I should have it too. Someone should give it to me. Government, someone else, my employer, whatever it is, I should be paid more. Like, it's a totally different mindset. And I'm of the belief, like, with everybody that works for me, like, I have a fantastic team of people. I tell all of them, I said, I want all of you to make $1 million. Like, I want all of you to make $1 million a year. But we all have to bring that value to the firm. You bring $1 million of value to the firm, you'll make $1 million. And they're all in different journeys in their career.
I like that phrase.
But that's really what it is, right? Like, I know the value I bring. I know the amount of clients I bring in, right? My name's on the wall. I know what everybody else is doing right now, and I know what they're capable of doing. I'm excited for all of their careers. They're all in different points in their career. They all have very unique skill sets. They're all very intelligent people, and I think they're all going to be rock star successes. We're just all at different stages. I've been doing it a lot longer than them. My point is that they understand that, I believe. In my firm, they understand that the more value they bring, the more they're going to get. And they're all working to do that. And I think if you create an environment that one encourages that and then gives people the bandwidth to do it. Like, that's the other problem with employers, right? They want people to say, oh, bring more value, do more things. But then there's too many rules and regulations in a company that they can't do it, right? You have to, take the law firm model, right? To be a partner in a traditional law firm, you have to bill so many hours or generate so much business. But to generate business, you can't bill hours, right? To bill 2,000 hours a year, you've got to work 70 hours a week. But then to become partner, you've got to go generate clients, which takes 10 to
22.
Right. My firm, we have no billable hour requirement. It's just like, do the work. Some clients we bill, some we don't, some we have different models for. And I incentivize them to market. Like, part of the incentive plan I have with them is every quarter they get points for doing marketing events, meeting with people, making referral relationships. If they meet those criteria, they get bonuses. That's how I'll get them to grow and bring value, because the more people they meet, the more they become a better person, a better lawyer. They develop. A lot of companies don't do that,
right?
And that's what gets lost on the generation coming up. They're equating that, either that inflated sense of value or that just, I'm getting paid for the hour. I should be paid more for that. They're not understanding.
Like it's a right.
Right, like it's a right, exactly. They're not looking at it from the value standpoint. Like, what value do you bring? What do you bring to the company? Who are you serving? Not what the company can serve to you. What are you serving to the company?
Do you think that corporate America, to a great degree, is complicit in this, being that they've caved? Because unions have grown so strong in different sectors of this country, and we can talk about the public sector unions, which to me is a whole different conversation, which I don't even know why they exist.
Yeah.
But they basically thought it was a bottom line expense, and the cost of having to hash this out in the vitriol, it wasn't worth it. They just paid it as an expense. They're demanding this, we'll just give it to them and move forward. And they kind of helped create the monster of demand by just capitulating.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good point, right? Because it all comes down to numbers. With a large corporation, right? And that's typically where you see unions in the private sector against large corporations. Public sector is totally different.
Right.
It's a cost-benefit analysis. Like, okay, what is it going to cost me to do this versus the risk? Right, to put it to bed versus the risk of them striking.
Right.
How will it impact business? So if I have to give them an extra $2 an hour, okay, what's the math compared to if the line in the manufacturing plant shuts down?
Right.
It's math.
So they're holding hostage, really.
Yeah,
I mean, it's part of the negotiation. It
is, and it's, again, I don't do union work. I did, like, when I first came out of law school, and it was an interesting field to be in, like on the labor relations side, and it's just a lot of propaganda, a lot of, I was on the management side, so I wasn't on the union side, but it's just, I feel like it's a game they both play,
right? And
the only people that win are management of both. I think the employees suffer, right? Because the people that are running the unions, they're getting the union dues regardless of what the people get.
Well, that's the funny part about big unions. They've now become their own little mini corporations.
Yes.
The thing that the rank and file fight against, fight against that corruptive management.
Yeah.
You have your own in your own organization.
Yeah, I mean, two of the careers my wife, I mean, she works in the schools now, but when she worked at it was like she's doing children's therapy. She was in a union in both, forced to be in a union, not a choice. It was like, hey, here's you have to pay these union dues. She's like, okay, what do you mean? Well, you're in a union because you work here. Like, that's the thing. Like, there's not even, once they have that, that bargaining agreement in place, like, if you become an employee that fits that category, you're in the union.
Yeah.
And they're paying dues. And it's just a whole, I mean, that's a whole other topic. And I think
it'd be a great one to flesh out, though, to do a whole show on unions.
Yeah. I mean, because again, like, I see the point of them and why they were started, but I see where they went sideways, and I see where it's caused problems.
Let's just take, for lack of nothing else to do today, let's talk about fast food for a second, because I am so fascinated by this whole thing. And
the food itself or the process?
No, the process of the demand of certain hourly wages. And I don't even know if they unionized or they. I don't know again, I'm speaking generally, but the philosophy of fast food. So. Years ago, decades ago, fast food jobs were what they were. They were not meant to raise a family on.
Correct.
They were intermediate jobs for high school kids.
Yeah.
Maybe single, not single, maybe well, it could be anybody, but the point was they weren't meant to be permanent positions.
Correct.
You weren't going to flip a McDonald's hamburger with a spatula as a career path and feed a family of 4 on there. Nobody in society thought that was a reality.
Correct.
And at some point, it changed. And McDonald's was expected, and I say McDonald's, I'm putting them all in there. All these fast food places are expected to provide a livable wage, which I'm still trying to figure out what that even means, but provide a wage that is not very competitive in a free market society.
Yeah.
So people are demanding to be paid significantly more than what the market would bear, or that position would bear in the market.
100%. It's crazy.
I don't understand how we got there. I don't understand why McDonald's and the rest of them are capitulating and have. We're seeing now that people won't work, so you're seeing $15, $17, $20 an hour. That's but in theory, that's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
If there's a shortage of labor, price per position goes up.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of the free market working.
Yes.
But this whole thing by demand is insane to me. I mean, you're not expected to raise a family of 4 working fast food unless you get into management and so forth. And there are pathways to do those things. There was a logical system at one time. It's not logical now.
Well, because again, this is the whole discussion we can get into, but yes, to your point, fast food was typically seasonal workers, like kids home from college, younger people, kind of just a first job to make money.
And it fit a great niche.
Correct. Then you have people that get into those jobs, stay there for a while, and then have a family of 4 while they're still there, and expect the job to adjust to them.
Not the employer's problem.
Correct. Like that's where because again, like at a certain point,
irresponsible parenting, life choices, growing families or quasi families before they're ready.
Yeah, like you need to think about that. Okay, if I'm making $10 an hour, should I have a family of 4? I know you can't plan for certain things. I get things happen, but there are certain things you can do in life to prevent that from happening.
That's not good enough.
So you got to look at it and what's going to happen. And here's the other thing that people don't understand in this argument, right? Who are the people that buy fast food? Typically the people that make lower wages, because that's the food they can afford, right? Like I'll eat fast food every once in a while, but I typically go to the grocery store, I go to restaurants, I buy healthier food. So the people that buy fast food, right, are the people that are typically the lower wage earners, that are the ones that are in fast food, that are asking for more wages. The employer is just going to pass that cost on to the consumer. So really it's a net zero difference. Because if you're increasing your wages, but now your food costs have went up over here, or your cost of goods have went up over here, because the stuff you buy are from places that are staffed with people that are doing the same shit you're doing. Say, I should get $20 an hour. Walmart and all these sales are going to be like, okay, we'll charge $20 an hour, but you know what? Those socks are now not $5 a pair, they're $7 a pair.
Right.
So that $2 an hour goes to buy your new socks. Like it's
just transfer.
Right. It's just moving the money. Like it's the employer's not going to be out. They're going to increase, because people that are have a decent income will go and not make a big deal of it. Like we'll just pay the additional cost, right? They're not going to see it impact, right?
Right.
If you're living paycheck to paycheck and are like scrimping by, those things matter. That hurts.
Of course,
it hurts the pocketbook.
Of course, it does.
But those are the same people that are, instead of trying to build better skills and advance in a role or get a different job, they want to stay in the same job, just want more money. Again, that's the time for hours. Which
and that's a big change. That's a big, even from the 90s. That's a big change, right?
So why would I? I mean, I'm just thinking about it from take all the money aside. Like talk about it from a common sense perspective, right? If I hire you to put Lego pieces together for me at $10 an hour, and you put them together the same way for 3 fucking years, why should I pay you more money to do it? Nothing's changed, right? Your skill set's exactly the same. You're doing the exact same job. You're not putting any more Legos together every day. You're literally doing the exact same thing and have learned no new skills. But you're telling me you should be paid 20% more just because you were there. That's not how it fucking works. If you said, you know what, I'm going to be the best Lego builder ever, and instead of building 10 Lego sets today, I'm going to build 12. Then the next year I'm going to build 14. And I'm going to help you find processes to say, I think we can help these other people go from 10 to 12 sets a day. Then I'm going to pay you $15 an hour because you've just proven your value to me. Right. The fast food model is, okay, if you're just on the line making food the same way for 3 fucking years, what justifies the increase in value? Not time. Well, time doesn't justify value.
Exactly.
But that's the problem.
Exactly.
That's what we're talking about. Like, I've just been here.
That's a union mentality. That's when it gets into time served, and even teachers tenure and all that stuff, where you're rewarded for dedication.
Everything
That's
should be
all
performance-based.
Well, of course.
Everything.
And it's, again, I referenced Jim Rohn long decades ago. I heard this speech about, at the time the numbers were very marginal and smaller, but he talked about Barry Eisner, I think, was running Disney, and he was making $8 million a year, and we're talking like in the 80s, early 90s. And Rohn would say, people ask me, Jim, is that guy really worth $8 million a year? And I say, well, let's take a look. Disney's bottom line was they brought in $700 million, and he's a bargain.
Yeah,
that man's a bargain. It's all the value he brought. Well, of course he probably should have asked for more.
Yeah,
and then you have Bob down there. Yeah, he's working flipping the hamburgers, and probably one of the nicest guys, good member of the community, one of the nicest neighbors you could ever have, a very good friend, a good person. Bob's not that valuable to McDonald's.
Right.
He doesn't bring much in terms of value.
Right. Yes.
That's why he's making $8 an hour.
Right. Make yourself irreplaceable.
Yeah. It's not hard to understand, but it takes a little humility.
That's it. That's exactly right. The humility is the thing that it takes, right? You got to be able to say, yeah, anybody can do this job. Like not to say like anybody can do it. I don't want to diminish anybody or anybody's role, but there are certain things that
can be replaceable.
Easily a machine can do it.
Right.
A lot of these restaurants have automated shit. Like look at some of the fast food restaurants now. I remember we were on vacation this summer. We stopped at a Taco Bell. It was fucking great. Like I just went up to a screen and ordered a bunch of shit. Like they do it Sheets and made it so I didn't have to talk to anybody. I didn't have to worry about them messing up my order. I literally just typed it in.
Is that more a result of technology or more of a result for irrational labor price demands?
I think it's a combination of both. I think technology was there. The irrational labor demands just implemented it quicker. Because, think about it. Like, okay, I now only need people to cook the food. That's all, right? I don't need people to stand at the register and type in the thing and then tell me in the back what I have to make. The computer doesn't know. That's what these places are doing. If you eliminated 3 positions, that's money to the bottom line. And I think had labor not been such a fight, or the cost of labor been such a fight, that may still be not really prevalent in fast food.
Because possibly if it was cost effective, the company may keep the human element there.
Right. Because people like the human element. Right. That's exactly. That's why Chick-fil-A has such a good model, right? They're efficient as shit, but they also have a very high touch human element to the business. That's why there's lines out the ass every time.
As hell.
But think
it's unbelievable. And people line up for that shit. That's
So
unbelievable.
Think about that statement you made. They're polite. Like, how hard is it to be polite? But just being polite in how much impact. You and I are sitting here talking about Chick-fil-A.
Oh, they're legendary for being polite.
Right. Now I want to eat Chick-fil-A this weekend, so I'm probably going to go to Chick-fil-A because I haven't thought about it in a while. So they just sold me on Chick-fil-A, but all because they're doing something decent human beings should be doing anyways. They just made it part of their model, and that place is always fucking packed. Every time you go to the one in Robinson, always packed. Order it online, wait for our food, but they're super polite. They're the nicest people, and every single person that works there, they have a model and they've perfected it. Like, take that, and you don't hear people at Chick-fil-A complaining about wages. I think they pay them pretty well because they have such a good model. People will pay a premium price for that product. I will pay for people to be polite to me. Like, I will pay $10 for a chicken sandwich for you to say, thank you, sir, you're great.
Oh, there's something else going on there. I think the employees are happier as a whole because they're being polite to each other, and they're in an environment of positivity that has to rub off on your state.
That is the fucking key. Culture is the key to any business.
That's your thing, man.
You're speaking my language, because if you create a culture of positivity, like, that's the fucking game changer. Everybody's happy. Everybody likes working together. Jobs get done more efficiently, better, faster. Like, I don't understand how people don't understand that culture is everything in a business. if you don't have the right culture, nothing else matters. This shit will fall apart.
And it's funny that money tends to get put in front of culture oftentimes, and that's detrimental to organizations and the people that work for them.
Absolutely.
But it should be an easy fix, but it takes effort. And also the humility to admit that it's not working. We need to put culture. We need to look at our culture first to then make the money component work correctly.
Yes. You know? But culture is, if a company focuses on culture, the money will come.
Got it.
I truly believe that if you create the right culture, because I look at our firm, right? Like I've had clients or potential clients tell me that they want to work with us because we have such a positive energy. Like our entire team. Like people don't say that shit about lawyers. People fucking hate lawyers.
But your whole business model is different though too.
True, but I think it's just we've created an environment where I want my people to be happy. I want my people to live to work in a positive environment. I want to encourage that.
Right.
We all have bad days and stressful days. That's just part of the process. Right? I have plenty. Trust me, it's been crazy the past 2 weeks. But if you give people the space to kind of find who they are and encourage them in a positive way and help them become who they can be, that's a game changer in business. And I think more businesses need to look at it that way. And I think you'll find then you can eliminate that labor problem, right? Because then people aren't looking at the money. They love the job so much and they're working so hard. That money's just going to come. They're going to make the money because they're going to make the company money, and it's going to all in the right environment. It's all passed down.
Right.
Again, like that's why Chick-fil-A has. You're 100% right. I truly believe it's. The employees are happier because they're polite to one another.
Maybe not in an example that's so apparent as Chick-fil-A, because obviously Chick-fil-A is a place that you may go continually throughout a month or a couple months. But I went to Hobby Lobby the other day, and their company has taken a lot of hits for their their conservatism, political stance, all that nonsense, which I'm not real versed on. But there was always a prevailing thought I had heard from people that go there for things. The staff is just incredibly nice. Yeah. Everybody is. So I went there yesterday for maybe the first time, or maybe I'd been there prior. I can't remember. But the first time I went there with an intent that I needed to do something. I had to get something framed. Yeah. So it was a multiple step process. I had to speak to different people. I walked out of there and I had forgotten that this is a company that had a conservative bent to it or whatever, and it had been a political. I forgot all that stuff. Yeah. But as I was leaving, I'm like, man, I get it now. Yeah. They really are. Because from the time I entered the store, got lost a couple times, found the right person who couldn't, right department, she couldn't help me, but she got the person who could. Yeah. And then set out this frame thing that we're doing. It was a process, but I was treated so well. It left as I walked out, I'm like, man, I will not have that level of service. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, they were 35-40% less expensive than Michael's and way less expensive than the little retail store I was going to go to. My point is, I got an amazing service at a very competitive price. Yeah. And that left an indelible mark on me. Wow, I wish I had more reasons to come here. Yeah. But it's not really my bag. Yeah. But you get it, right? 100%. It was instant. I knew it. Yeah. I was treated differently.
Yes. Those places make an impact.
Well.
Yes. I love going to a restaurant where that happens, right? Where the people are just so polite and so nice, and I mean anywhere like that just changes the experience.
100%. And even especially in a restaurant,
right? And even if it's a place like a Hobby Lobby, I may go once in 3 years. Right. I'm going to tell more people about it. Like you just told me and your entire audience. Yep. It's one thing you're going to go do there, but they just got free marketing from you just because they treated you well. Mm-hmm. Like restaurants, I'll go back to restaurants repeatedly because I know, like, we go to Saga a lot in Robinson for sushi. Yeah. For some reason, I mean, it's just me. But for some reason, the people
I can show
there,
you a video that you would never eat sushi.
That's fine. Let's not do that. 'Cause I have some sitting at home that I ordered from that Gold Belly where you can make your own sushi. So let's not even go there.
Well, you're not buying convenience store sushi.
No.
Gas station sushi.
I mean, I've done that in the past.
Gas station sushi.
When I've been drinking, it made sense at the time. Probably not the next day. But anyways.
Out in Vegas.
Anyways.
Okay.
But I go there because like every time I go, the people are so nice. Like they're so wonderful to my kids. They're attentive. They a couple of people that know what I order almost every time from there, and it's just like that little attention to detail matters. And I'll always tip them 40-50%.
That's service.
It's but again, like if companies, that's part of the culture, right? if companies stressed culture and the right culture and positivity and just being kind and nice, their businesses would truly explode, I believe.
But why don't we do it?
I don't fucking know, because it's too hard. Because people think being nice is uncomfortable. Like, I'm a business. I'm cutthroat. Like, I got to make money. It's about money.
Is that mentality still there?
I feel like it is partially in certain industries, right? Mm-hmm. But I think it's, again, like, especially in my industry, right? The law, like, people, it's an adversarial profession by nature. Mm-hmm. So when I'm dealing with a lawyer on the other side and I'm like super nice and they don't know what to fucking do.
That has to be amazing.
They like want to be. You can hear in their voice. They think it's going to be a fight, and then we end up talking about like kids or life at the end of the call, and it's like, oh yeah, that's fine. We can do it that way. I'm like, just be nice to fucking people. You get shit done, and it's truly my nature, right? It's not. I'm not doing it as a ruse or just to try and win an argument. Yeah. I'm just a decent. I like to think I'm a decent human being or treat people decently, and it's.
We get a little bit of that in real estate too. Absolutely. When you go to negotiate for a house, and I was really. I don't think it's my nature to be adversarial, but I got very good advice from some very good seasoned realtors when I started that, look, everybody's got to win. Mm-hmm. Nothing happens if both sides don't win. Now, maybe it's a little different with lawyers, but the process doesn't win if both sides don't participate correctly.
Correct, yes.
And with us, we're all trying to get something done.
Yeah.
And what's best for my client does not necessarily mean your client needs to lose.
Yes, exactly. It's exactly right.
Right?
Yes.
I mean,
it's a simple concept, but it's a loss on a lot of people.
You would think.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not like
a lot of people.
I mean, so much about life and the maneuvering of life, the mechanics of life, is not addressed at a young age. I don't know if parents don't think about doing it because some of the stuff's pretty basic.
Yeah.
Or whatever the reason is, there's a lot of things we could do at a high school level, even a grade school level, to bring some of the more basic mechanics of life into the curriculum beyond the standard stuff they're learning,
Yeah, I mean, I've always said I think there's a lot of missed opportunities in schools. And luckily, like I like to think we teach our kids certain principles about treating people with respect and decency and just, showing up a different way. But I think schools should be teaching that. I think, again, there needs to be a focus on that. That's how you create a major shift in society, by really recreating the way kids are taught, what kids are taught, how they're taught to interact with one another. I had this conversation with, I think 2 days ago with someone. We were talking about just the lost art of talking face to face. Like,
it's what we do.
But it's the truth. Like, think about
that's why we're sitting here.
I want to teach my kids to be able to look somebody in the eye, shake their hand, have an engaging conversation. You'd be surprised at how many people I meet that are kind of in that younger demographic that get so uncomfortable talking face to face.
Yes.
And it's like, if you can do that in that generation, you will be a standout. Like, that's not a hard concept to grasp. But because we have computers and technology, people have been behind that for so long. This face-to-face is difficult for people to do, and you can spot it instantaneously.
Well, see, the pandemic made that even worse in that these kids are coming out of school with their faces in screens anyways. Yeah. Now you just force society to do this for 18 months, 2 years. So that kind of made it easy for because obviously at some point, I would think, for most people coming out of college and going for their first job, they're going to have to look up from the screen now and start engaging with humans. Yeah. In most positions, there's an element of that. So, but if you prolong a couple more years of doing everything virtually, I just don't think it's healthy.
It's not. You need human interaction.
Yeah.
I mean, you really do. And it's a lost art. It really is. And I know I can spot right away people that get it and people that don't. And there's not much in between.
Have you listened? Let me ask you this. Yeah. Have you had the ability to eavesdrop or just be around, let's say your son and one of his compadres and listen to a conversation?
Yeah. Yeah, I have. They come to my house and build shit for me. They're my new handymen.
Okay. Beyond typical teenage fodder and all that kind of stuff, do you ever pay attention to, for lack of a better word, the mechanics of the conversation?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
What do you see?
Well, I mean, so luckily,
What do you hear?
So luckily, my son and the two guys that he's brought to my house a few times, fraternity brothers of his, they talk about like politics and economics and like different things, and they also talk about girls and sports and stuff. But it's, I hear a lot of myself and my son, so I guess I'm kind of biased. He talks a lot like I do.
Okay.
He interacts with people a lot of the same way I do. So I think from a mechanic standpoint, I think he gets how to interact with people, how to navigate a conversation. I've seen him, talk to adults. I've seen him talk to kids his own age. I've seen him talk to the opposite sex, and he has a very good ability of reading a situation, being situationally aware, and talking to that situation.
Okay.
And not just being the 20-year-old frat boy.
Okay.
He can compose himself.
Okay.
He's very polite with people, and I think his friends are the same way, at least in my experience. But, I don't know if that answers the question. But I think
it does. Let me go further with it.
Yeah.
How much within the conversations that you've been able to eavesdrop in on, how much do you hear questions being asked, or do you hear them talk in statements only?
That's a good question. That's actually a really good question. I think there's probably a lot more statements than questions. If I kind of think back through it, and the questioning I've seen the questioning come when they talk more about worldly topics. Okay. Which I think is good, right? Like they're questioning politics, they're questioning economics, and they're saying, well, why do you think that? Like that type of stuff. I think they're challenging each other. Now, it's not a large majority of the conversation. It's also dick jokes and fart jokes. But I have, like when we've had, because their job is when they come over, I pay them money and I buy them lunch. So that's the deal. So if I need shit put together at my house, I'm like, I calculate like what's going to cost me to have them do it.
Your IKEA installers.
Well, we did our bar in the basement, and the only place we can get chairs for before a party was Wayfair, and they're a bitch to put together. Yeah. So I'm like, hey, so they put that together. They put a shed together for us, and they put like my poker table and chairs together. And I'm like, okay, this will take me 4 hours. My hourly rate is X. I could pay them a fourth of that and buy them lunch, and we're good. And they have fun doing it. So, but part of that is we always buy lunch, and we'll all sit down and just talk with them. And it's cool because like they talk about like stuff I talk to adults about. Like his one friend asks about politics and what I think about this and what I think about that, and it's cool. Like they're questioning me, and they're curious about my thoughts, which I thought was pretty fascinating because most kids are just kind of talking about stupid shit and they don't really care about my opinion. I don't know if they were just trying to appease me, but it was a cool, a couple of times we did it where like they were actually asking me what I thought about things and actually questioning things and why I thought something.
What I wonder is, if our youth are as inquisitive or curious or have the outward conversational skill to actually ask what they're feeling. I don't mean feeling in a feelings kind of way. I mean what they're curious about. Are they able to articulate the questions and have the bravery? I guess I think it's an insane word to use. It takes bravery to ask a question, but I get it at that age. Do they understand the mechanics of how to engage? And I think there's a lot of statements being thrown out. That their conversations consist of more statements than questions.
They talk to one another, not with one another. That's a lot of it, right? They're just saying statements back and forth. Like I think the ability to question, right? That's an art form to learn, right? I think it's something that.
But aren't we taught that? Weren't we taught that?
We are, but asking the question differently or asking the right question. Like we're taught to question things, right? But we may not develop the skill to understand what the right question is. Okay. Like I felt like I didn't really figure that shit out till my late 20s. Like how to ask the right question, right? And now I feel like
it takes effort.
Well, right, but it also takes being able to think a few steps ahead, right? Like now I feel like at 44 with my clients, like I'm very good at getting to the question.
Chess as opposed to checkers.
Yeah, exactly. Like I got to be able to say a client comes in with an issue. I've already thought through it. I'm like, this is the real issue. And I ask that question and it's spotted immediately. But 5 years ago, I may have had to go through a process of 5 or 6 pre-questions to get there. I've just honed my skill enough to say, seen this before, know their business, know the personality. This is what I think the issue is. Let me ask this question first to save all this time and cut through the bullshit. 99 out of 100 times, that's the right question.
Well, that's experience showing its head.
That's exactly. It's experience. So yeah, we're taught to question. You get better at questioning through experience. You get better at identifying the right question to ask through experience, because that is the art form, right? Knowing the right question to ask at the time to ask it.
Correct.
I think, but that we're not taught that, right?
Yes.
You can only learn that through doing.
Yes.
That's how I view it. So I think we are taught as kids to question things, right? Just question stuff, right? That's what we're told. Question things.
Are we?
I think so. Like, I tell my kids, question.
I mean, I'm probably in the school system. I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think they are taught to that. I mean, they maybe not as much. Like, I feel like when I was a kid, like maybe I just had really good teachers and I liked my teachers, but they kind of challenged us and told us to question things. And even in law school and in college, like, we were taught to question stuff. I think it's probably less with my kids now. So I've taken on that role of saying, just if you don't agree with something, question it. Ask them to tell you why. Like, sometimes the question is why. It's as simple as that. Like, why do I have to do it that way? Why is it done that way? Why are you telling me this? Why is that right? Like, that's the main question.
Yeah, I think another avenue of this could be that with all virtual, and again, the pandemic, I'm not specifically talking about the pandemic, because technology has certainly integrated with school, but certainly a lot the last year. The danger, I think, is we end up teaching from a dictatorial standpoint, and we also end up not engaging in a way that encourages detailed response. I think we're asking questions that are either yes or no, or are very short kind of acknowledgement back. We're just not really engaging in a human way with students that gets them speaking, that gets them, and I think this happened maybe a decade or two ago. It started. I just think that by not, for lack of a better phrase, forcing children to engage in that human conversation and to really know how to converse, right?
That's
it's
a good point.
not serving them well
100%
today. Even on little interactions that they might meet with a stranger, it's not serving them. If you were to explain to even my son what an elevator pitch is, like, as a salesperson, you should have an elevator pitch. What is, in one sentence, half a sentence, or maybe a sentence and a half, said with articulation, who you are and what you do. I think that's completely lost.
It is 100%.
And that's something that you take an essay and a paragraph and you whittle it down till you find the right. But that whole concept is formed because it's a written communication now. I think we're just missing something at the younger age level, that we're not teaching them how to be conversationalists.
Well, and I'll give you an example. You're spot on with that. And I think, my daughter Ellie, like, she has a couple classes where she's had like trouble on some homework. And I said, well, why don't you just ask the teacher to explain it? And she said, she's hard to ask questions to. So, like, right there, like, they're not engaging with the students to make them feel comfortable enough to ask the question. And when kids are 12, 13 years old, kind of in that we're developing, everything's awkward to them. So if you don't make them feel any bit comfortable about, they're not going to ask the question.
Right.
So then she comes home, then myself or Laura have to help her figure out the answer. When I'm like, you should have just asked the teacher. But I get what she's saying. Like, it's uncomfortable. They don't make me feel comfortable. They just think everybody knows it and just move on to the next thing. And I think the education system, because again, like, I look back at teachers I had, the ones that made me feel really comfortable, I would have discussions with them. I'd ask them questions, challenge it, and that was and it made me learn. I learned better. I interacted better, and I think that's not happening. And especially too, like, teachers have been under such stress with this pandemic. I think there's been so many uncertainties, and I think there's just, we're in this world of like fear-based emotion, and I don't think they're doing it intentionally. I think it's just their automatic response to just be closed off.
Yeah.
And like not have that open, like embracing, like I remember like hugging teachers as a kid.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was a different era. Like now it's like, here's a screen in front of my desk, like stay behind the plastic. And it's just like, how do you expect kids to learn what we're talking about, that human interaction, being able to embrace another human being, when they're doing it through barriers and masks right now? That's a good question. And I think hopefully in another year, we'll be normalized in this pandemic, and we can go back to somewhat of a more closely lived world.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting to look back and see. Hopefully it's not that bad, but to see what the impact of these 2 years on children were and their educational development. Because there's going to be a lot of studies done. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to have a huge impact on it, because they're in those years where it's like everything matters. Mm-hmm. Like every interaction, every teacher, every subject matters. And it's, if they're not getting that high touch, that interaction, that human connection, I think it becomes very cold, and it's hard to learn in that environment. You're in an environment of stress.
I so agree.
And you don't learn well in an environment of stress. You create an environment of positivity and comfort and empathy and kindness. People learn at such an exponential rate, retain information at such an exponential rate.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And just I'll throw the word safe in there as well, too.
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
a lot of our inner city schools, and obviously it's not just inner city. It's look at our suburb schools now with the shootings and everything else. I mean, it's like we need to provide. We owe it to the generation coming up to put them in a place to have a significant advantage intellectually.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I don't care about sports now. All that has its place.
Yeah.
But intellectually, we're failing.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
We're failing the youth.
Yeah.
I think. And I'm a big proponent of conversations, and I think that conversationally, just what I've observed is you can tell that things are different, because when you have an interaction with a younger person, oftentimes it's very short, curt, and not engaging. It's awkward.
Yeah.
And teenagers are generally awkward anyways.
Of course,
I'm sure we all were.
Yes.
But it was a little different. Like, I think there's not a propensity to engage the other person. And it's bad enough that we had that with adults.
Yeah.
But this is the generation that's coming up, and I think we've probably failed them in that regard.
I completely agree, and it kills me to say it, because I have kids growing up in that generation. All I can do is impact them, right? That's what I try and do, is impact my kids as much as possible. But I see it happening. Like, we have did a disservice to that generation. We haven't given them the tools they need to be successful, and you hope they figure it out. But you got to have the tools and the resources to do it, and the people around you to help you do. And I think there's just been, the past 2 years especially, but even before that, I think the education system has changed, and it's too political, it's too bureaucratic, it's too, it's not about the kids anymore. And that's the problem I have. I think it's just there's too much infighting. It's just, I mean, even look at the cost of college, right? I mean, how do you justify things like that? There needs to be a fundamental shift, I believe, in the way the system is built and structured.
Well, it's the craziest system. You have a system that academia. Let's separate the institutions from the academia. The institutions of higher education. They're getting all the benefits of a free market system.
Yes.
But they're also getting the benefits of a socialized government offering as well.
Yes, 100%.
So it really, and I don't like the word, but using the word fair in terms of interacting with the consumer and how they interact with these institutions, the consumer's kind of fucked.
Well, I mean, yes. Think about any other thing you can buy in this world where you're like, I don't make any money, I don't have any credit, can you give me $200,000 to go there? Yep, done. Here's $200,000, no problem. And guess what? This is the only debt you can't bankrupt. Like, think about that's the government socialist program, right? Student loans. I can go to college or to graduate school and get a student loan with no income and shitty credit, right? And the school can charge whatever they want because I can get the loan to pay for it. Name one other situation in life where you can go get a loan for a car, a house, anything, with no income and no credit. Can't.
It's insane.
And this is the only debt you cannot discharge through bankruptcy. So you're stuck with it. And you think an 18-year-old smart enough to know what they're doing, taking on that amount of debt? Like, that's why the system's broke. I mean, the bubble has to burst. These schools, like where I went to college, when I think my last year was like $27,000. It's over $60,000 a year. 20 years ago, like it's not 3 times better.
Well, part of the problem is the lack of good parental advice or having somebody in their corner at that time. And again, it's like the whole issues with bad parenting, period. And I use bad parenting as being people who don't really put their children's best interest at the forefront. That's how I label bad parenting.
Sure.
So, but it could be a circumstance of just pure ignorance. Some parents, parents not familiar with college, not familiar with how it works. We're all different in this world. It really is amazing to me that something that should be so good, which is higher education, but should only probably be limited to those who understand the costs and have the mental aptitude from the beginning to really get something out of it, because not everybody should be, based on aptitude and interest, should be going to school.
Correct.
And we shouldn't brainwash society and thinking it's a requirement.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, we don't even require you to do military service in this country. Why do we want to brainwash that you're required to get a college degree if you want any chance of having a life?
Yeah, it's
That's
big business.
nuts.
It's crazy to me. I mean, especially today, right? You can start any business you want relatively cheaply and, online. I mean, I know people that are in their late teens, early 20s making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in online business just because they've taken the shot and figured it out.
Right.
Like when I was growing up, college we were supposed to go to college. Did I have to go? No, but I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. So that was a natural step in the progression. I had to go to college. But I think, out of all the kids in college right now, probably 40% should be there.
Well, I agree.
The other 60% are just there because that's what they thought they were supposed to do. And then the problem, this comes back to the problem about wages, right? They think, well, I have a college degree, I should be making $100,000 a year. It's like, no fucking way, dude. Like, sorry, that's not what you're worth.
Get ready for the lawsuits, pal.
Yeah, like that was, but that's the problem, right? You have these kids that come out of school and think they should be making all this money when they haven't done shit.
Yeah.
They haven't done shit.
Yeah. I don't understand how. I'm ignorant to the specifics of how the whole student loan, how the government interfaces with that, and how it's almost like a slush fund for colleges. And how the big sports and there's a lot of fuckery in there.
Yes, correct.
For lack of a better phrase.
Yes,
but the premise that you need to survive, you need a college degree to survive. Johnny won't make it. Jane won't make it. Yeah. That's a lie.
It's a complete lie.
I do not have a college degree, and I did it in an era where it was not that easy, before the web and all that stuff. I got lucky, but I fucking worked pretty hard.
Yeah, you did.
And maybe in some instances I probably had to work harder than the degreed people sitting next to me at the jobs I was at. But you know what? That's the price I paid for the laziness of not getting a degree. Okay, so be it. It can be done. That's the thing. It's not and I just had this conversation. I'm probably in a weird position because I wanted both of my children. I was nudging them based upon their aptitude and some of the interest they had. That they probably would be served getting a 4-year degree if they wanted to.
Correct. Yes.
The natural pushback was, Dad, well, you don't have a degree. Yeah. And of course, I can't argue that.
Correct. Yes.
I told them I thought it would be harder for them, because it probably would be without it, but it's not required. And I think that there's a mentality that we require it, which is insane.
Yeah, I agree. We need to get away from it because it's not. Like, I told my son the same thing. I said, look, go to college because you're getting a degree or want to get into a field that requires a college degree, like doctor, lawyer, accountant, finance, something like that. Don't go to college just to fuck around. I'd rather you take that money, start a business, fail a couple times, you'll learn a lot more than you would there. I said, or if you truly want to go to college just for the experience, then admit that, say it. And so we understand, we all have the same understanding going in. And he's
pretty honest,
but it's the truth. Because look,
no kid will do that.
But there isn't like I look at my experience in college. Like some of my best friends this day I met in college, and it was great 4 years. Like you
sure.
you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about life. You know,
for sure.
And there is a benefit to the experience of college.
Yes, I would agree.
You know, but again, if I told my parents, I'm like, hey, I just want to go to college to fuck around for 4 years and get the experience, they would have been like, go fuck yourself. Like,
yeah, honesty wasn't received quite as well back then.
No, definitely not. But again, like if that's what my son wanted to do, but he's smart. Like he's getting great grades. He's in finance major. He's thinking about going to law school. So you know, I'm proud of what he's done and who he's become, and I think he gets it. And there's still a lot to learn. You know, he's a young man. There's still a lot for him to learn. But I do think, you know, his mother, his stepdad, myself, Laura, like we've all done the best we could to give him the best path forward.
Right.
And I think if parents took that ownership a little bit more, I think we could change a lot of society.
Yeah, there's no question. I tell you what, man, I don't know how y'all are doing it with kids the age of your kids right now in the pandemic. My kids are pretty much done, and you know, college, so they're not around 24/7.
Yeah.
And going through the pandemic, I mean, I had a daughter who was a senior in high school during 2020.
Yeah.
And yes, right. So, you know, I told her, you know, and she was pretty bummed. I said, Gwen, if this is the toughest thing you're going to face in your life, I think you're going to be okay.
Yeah, you'll survive.
But the point is to have youngsters going through virtual schooling and all the frustration that goes with that.
It's the fucking worst.
It has to be amazing.
It was and I give Laura all the credit because when we were bunkered up at the house, I went in the basement, set my office up in the basement, and she did everything. So I give her credit. Like I could not have done what she did. Yeah. And luckily, like my girls, like Ellie and Melina, they're both truly amazing little girls, and they are a joy to be around. They really are.
Right.
Like Melina's the comedian, like she keeps us laughing, we have fun with her. Ellie's just like sweet and kind and caring and like helps Laura. Like so it wasn't like it wasn't stressful being around them. Where some parents, like I'd like, because you don't ever get that time to be around. Like I was around them so much, and I appreciate that time. I also appreciate the time away from them just to get a breath.
You got a little grayer during that era,
just to get a breath. I mean, you know my daughters. I mean, they're you know, I love them to death. Melina's the ball breaker.
That's great.
But so yeah, great. It was definitely a difficult situation because. Think about what kids are used to. They're used to getting on a bus every day, being around their friends, interacting with their friends, having fun. Like both of my girls love school. Like they love to go to school. They have friends. They have a blast. And to say you got to be at home on a fucking Zoom call to do your classes, and it was like, and it was hard because the teachers were trying to figure it out, and it was, you know, it was hard for everybody.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. No. I got a couple friends that are teachers, and one's a pre-K teacher, and she was just telling me, she goes, you just can't imagine. And I think in the end, hopefully, at least in my lifetime, this is going to be a reaffirmation that virtual learning, because a lot of people were proponents of virtual learning before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's going to go away.
Well, I would hope so, because again, but there's still a lot of parents out there that they want their kids to learn virtually. They like, this is great, learn virtually. No,
do you think there's a lot of them out there?
I think there's a few, not a lot. Okay. Not a lot. I would say a handful of very vocal ones.
Yeah. It's not always the case.
But you can't, but again, like part of the experience of school is social interaction. Like that's a big part of, not the teachers are teaching you, you're just learning through doing, like learning how to interact, like dealing with bullies, dealing with like asshole kids, dealing with, you know, disagreements, like,
and disappointments.
Yeah, like kids are learning that by being around other kids.
And socialization, right?
Yeah, and like what to do and not to do.
If we let them.
Correct. Like my daughter Melina has learned to fart in class and blame it on someone else. So
that is a skill set that will serve her well when she gets older, for sure.
I said that is a skill set you could use in the office. Just let it out and be like, who did that? I mean, she's said she's done that in
Your
class.
whole firm now knows who the issue is.
But that's part of the experience of school,
of course.
Right? And it's,
of course,
you can't replace that.
No
virtual learning can replace that. You can't learn social interaction virtually.
No, and this is the sad part about what we're dealing with now. Like one thing, and it's very specific, and again, I know that the kids are going to be just fine.
Yeah.
But like even like dating as a as a child, learning, not that you encourage too much of that, but just in senior high, like the lack of like the dances and the interactions and keeping kids away. I had this really weird vision that's going to haunt me for a long time, and that is the senior year of my daughter's 2020, her senior year. I went and I picked her up, and she was upset because they were going to a parking lot, counting out 10 feet with lawn chairs, and 10 of her girlfriends were putting lunches in there so they could just see each other and have a conversation, and then that was taken from them. And I'll never forget like her disappointment of like, I can't even be around. It was I think it was during the initial lockdown or into the summer of 20 maybe. They wouldn't even let the kids be 10 feet away with lawn chairs. It was just insanity.
That's completely
just insanity. And I will always look back at that like there was the kids want to be kids. Kids want that social, and I talked about the lack of conversational skills. It ain't gonna help when you keep them away from each other.
Right, exactly. That was a complete mistake in my opinion.
It's insane. It's insanity.
And
we may be headed back toward that now.
There's no fucking way, dude. People will not put up with it. I don't think people. Here's the way I look at it. Like, there's no way that's going to go back, because we are 2 years in. After everything we've done, numbers are still high. We should know that the shit we didn't work. Right? It's got to just play its course. I mean, think about it. Like, I think what was yesterday or the day before, highest case count in the U.S. ever. And we have everything, we've done every mitigation effort possible, lockdowns, masks, vaccines, boosters, therapeutics. The shit's still running rampant. Why go back to shit that didn't work?
It's going to be here.
I mean, think about it, but why go back to that? How do you articulate that to the populace that, hey, case counts are the highest they've ever been. We did this before, we're going to do it again. We think it'll work this time. How do you intelligently articulate that to get people to be like, yep, you're fucking right, let's do this? It's not going to happen.
Yeah, in my opinion. It really is. You sit and wonder, like, what could have been done differently? So the first thing you come to is like, what if we just absolutely did nothing from the very beginning? Like, we got noticed that like the bird flu was H1N1. Yeah. So where we handled it like we kind of handled it there, where it didn't consume us on a daily basis. No. But there were some precautions put into place.
Yeah, it ran its course though.
It ran its course. Would that have worked in this circumstance? Maybe not. I don't know. But are we really any better off today with all the hysteria, the constant hysteria that has waned on the public's psyche?
No. That's made everything 1,000 times worse. Like, that mass psychosis that's created by the media, the death count, the case count constantly running in the background. That mass psychosis, like that guy on the Joe Rogan show said, like, that's what it's done. Like, take that away. Think about it over the past 2 years. Take away all the shit on social media. Take away CNN and Fox and everybody keeping the death count up. And they just talked about it on the news. Like, cool, it would have happened and we would have made precautions in place, but people would have went about their lives and been kind to one another and not taken these hard, fast lines. It would just be like, okay, this is out here. We need to be cautious. Wash your hands. Stay home if you're sick. You know, if you're really sick, like, call the doctor. Like, that's what we would have done.
Right.
But now we've created this psychosis in people. Like, this is going to fucking kill me if I walk out in the hallway. Like, holy shit, I got to wash my groceries off. Like, think about some of the irrational shit we did at the beginning. Like, people were literally washing their groceries when they brought them in the house.
Yeah, they were telling us that it was surface related.
Right.
Remember, like how it was so surface related that it was touching things was going to kill you.
And think about the masking requirements. Right, you have to wear a mask walking to your table in a restaurant. Then you take it off. It's safe. How? Explain to me the physics of that. I mean, like, I would try and rationalize that. Again, I'm like not this anti-whatever, but I'm like, rationalize that for me. So you're saying it's scary when I'm walking to my table, but once I sit down, no chance of catching the virus. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, how? And people are just like, yep, blindly leading without even questioning it.
Here's what's crazy. So I'm the last person to encourage any kind of federalism because I just do not believe in heavy-handed federal government at all. But the irony is there was these mask mandates, but the government who is enforcing them, created them and enforced them, did a huge disservice to the public because, think about it for a second, just for a second, put your complete philosophical bias aside for a second.
Sure.
The government, for your benefit, for your health, demands that you do the following.
Yep.
And it's so important that you do because it's life or death. That's what was told to us.
Yes.
Okay, you son of a bitch. Then you give me the right mask that is proven to cover my entire face at all times, and you standardize it, and you give everybody the same mask, and with instructions and tutorials and everything, so we're implementing them correctly.
Correct.
Uniformly for every legal and illegal person here, any human being walking within the 50 states, you provide that. So it's uniform.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a great point, right? Because if we're using a mitigation effort like masking to supposedly mitigate this, then if it's inconsistent with the types
That's
of
not even
masks,
describing it. It's horrid.
What does that mean? But like some states had it, some didn't. Does it cloth mask? Cool, not cool. So there was no consistency anywhere. So how do you expect that to work? Right? I mean, how do you expect that to work?
I think the mandate should have, based upon the taxes that we pay, that exist extorted from us for a bazillion different reasons, if we were going to be mandated, and I mean, I'm not for it. I'm saying, but if it's going to be imposed on us, the least they could have done was standardize the masking, paid for it, and put a system in place that continually gave us healthy masks to wear. None of that was done. Oh, put a curved chief. Some guys, I had the ones where you pulled up that looked like I was robbing a bank. I mean, it's insanity.
It's like this. It's like they're trying. You get three groups of people say, "Hey, we're going to build a tiered cake, right? Each of you have your own stations. Here's a bunch of ingredients. Do whatever the fuck you want with the ingredients."
That's exactly
that's what it was. It was
exactly what it is.
That's it. It's like here's some eggs, some flour, some sugar, butter. Same thing. Mix it however you want. Put whatever amount you want in. Like, there's the ingredients. This is what you need. And like, you don't
by the way, you have to do it.
Right. You have to figure out how to make a cake.
You can't just throw it in the trash.
Right. You got to make something.
We want to see it.
Right.
And if we don't see it, we're going to find you.
Correct. Like, that's what it was. It was just like complete and fucking anarchy. And nothing made sense. And I get there's different opinions about everything. There's different, but again, like, you're right. Like, I'm not a federalist either. Like, little government, like, good, way better than big government. But if you're going to do something like that and you're trying to do it quickly and effectively to eradicate something, create that standard across the board and say, this is what it is. Everybody's getting one. Do it. We do it for 6 months. We're good. Let's move on. But it's like, no, wear a cloth mask. No, they don't work. Surgical masks work. No, they don't work. N95 masks work. We don't have any. Like, what the fuck are we supposed to do?
There's supposed to be the concept of things being fluid, that life presents things that are constantly in motion. I get all of that.
Sure.
But
science is science.
You can't.
I mean,
I love science.
I mean, right?
I love science, but also, I kind of like the truth.
Also true. Truth is a lot better. I remember I was walking around.
Or how about this? How about honesty? When they don't honestly know the truth, just be honest about it and say, hey, it's they love the word. It's fluid.
Yes.
We're learning as we go. We think this might work. We're not asking you to believe us entirely because we don't have the actual proof yet, but we're working on it. Hey, I can do Fauci's job.
Yes.
I can do it. I mean, I'm not a man of science, but I can communicate more effectively than that little guy does.
Yes.
I mean, it's not rocket science.
No,
man.
and the problem with politicians, right? When they have a wrong position, instead of correcting, retracting,
Humility.
they double down.
Humility,
They
man.
double down.
Lack
Now we're going
of
to wear
humility.
5 masks.
Lack of
Because we know
humility.
one didn't work. Let's wear 5. And a face shield and fucking
They're going to
goggles.
die on that hill, man, with their
Yeah.
belief, even though they have been,
it's like, what the
they have
fuck?
been shown rationally that it's not correct.
Right.
Then say, I'm sorry, I was wrong.
Right.
I mean, think about what a concept. It's such a missed opportunity. I'm gonna tell you something, man. The thing that, and I've thought this for decades, but if you had a politician who actually had humility and could express in a concerned way that, you know what, I had this belief for a while, but I believe now that I was wrong, and here's why.
Yeah.
And this thought, that's not weakness.
No.
Where did we somehow confuse rational thought and a change of heart or mind as weakness? Where does that come from?
People think it's a symbol of weakness because it shows uncertainty. Like, it's like, oh, you're not certain in a position, or you're a flip-flopper. It's like, no, I just got new information.
That's
that
called
made me-
learning,
it's called
right? We take our
exactly.
kids to school. You don't want you don't want them to believe one thing and have the teacher show them factually it's something else, and then them not do it, right?
It's like, I like pizza,
Right.
and then I say that's my favorite food. Then I try an amazing hamburger. I'm like, that's my favorite food. Like, you're a flip-flopper. I'm like, no, I just now tried a fucking hamburger, and it tastes better than the pizza I've only ever had. Like, it's a fucking simple concept. Like, if I've only ever seen this, and then there's an alternative to that, which I think is better now, I'm not a flip-flopper. I just have new information that made me formulate a new opinion.
But what an opportunity! You could
If I ever run for office, that's going to be my platform.
But you could be like that. If there would be a just take. We'll look at federal politics, right? Not state politics. Take the Senate, the House of Representatives, the presidency. If you just had somebody of that stature that could be really get in there and negotiate and policy and all that, but then like I've been shown things, and I've evaluated this, and I am changing my mind, and here is why.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to go on to the next subject.
Yeah.
If you had somebody
Amazing.
who was not dyed in the wool at a certain thing and would die on that hill with that belief and their buddies and that faction, if you would just say, I was wrong.
Or someone would say, you know what? That's a great question. I don't have a clue.
We had the President of the United States got blowed in the White House and couldn't say initially that he did it. He lied about it, but then a month later decided that he did get blowed in the White House and said, okay. I mean, at what point is it okay to say, yeah, I fucked up, or you know what, my thought process has been wrong, or you know what, I gave a bunch of speeches on what I believe to be true, but now I realize it's not. I think the pragmatic thing and the honest thing is to give you what I really believe and an explanation of how I've changed.
That's all. That's it.
The public would lay down and throw roses at him.
Yes, that's it.
I mean, like,
that is
you
it.
would be the next Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I mean, like, this is insane that you can't be honest as a politician. You would rule the country.
Because the machines that run the politicians, that's the problem, right? You have the machines, the parties that say you have to toe the party line. If you want to be reelected and get support from the party and get the money from the party, you better toe the party line.
So you can't apologize for being wrong.
I feel like that's
you
a big
can't
part
change,
of the problem.
You can't change, like, I guess if you're a Democrat and you have a platform that you have to toe the line on all these issues, and then because of a life experience, something has shown you that what you have believed for so long, or you just assumed you believed because you really weren't bought into it, but you've always said you did as a politician, that's your platform. Yeah. Now it's not true. Let's just say it's flipped 180 degrees and you have enough data, you've spoken to enough people, and you have your own life experience that you believe in your gut or in your heart or your soul, it's no longer true. Yeah. It doesn't even take courage. It's a conversation. Yeah. You know, I've really come full circle on this, and I really vehemently believe this is wrong. And here's why. People would instantly, 100%. We're so starving for honesty, people would gravitate. You could become a House of Representatives straight to the presidency because you would be so wanted in today's politicals by the public, not... I agree. Not maybe your own party or the other party, but the rank and file, unwashed masses would love some fucking honesty.
Well, I mean, look at Joe Manchin right now from West Virginia. Like, he's kind of doing that. He's like, I'm not voting for this shit. Like, I'm a Democrat.
There's an element of that there.
And he's like, this is not what my people want. And he's actually doing what the people, his constituents, want. Like that. And look
novel concept.
I mean, but look at the waves it's caused, right? How much attention he's getting. Like that's a part of it.
I think that's a pretty good example. It's not entirely what I'm thinking, but it's a good, relevant, current day example.
Yeah, someone has balls to differ from what their party line. Yes, from what their party said they should do.
And what he's really saying is, and it's this fascinating theater to me, because what he's really saying is that on these 4 or 5 issues, he doesn't believe what the slate he's supposed to believe and stand behind.
Yeah.
He's differentiating there, and that is in itself such a great honesty. But I would go further. And I'm not saying he wants to be president, so maybe he doesn't have aspirations to be bigger than what he is. I don't know the man.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if I was him, would go further. Man, you know what? Let me tell you something, Rocco. Let me tell you why I think politicians either are not brave, they're not brave enough, they don't have enough, or maybe they don't have enough confidence in their conversational ability.
Sure.
Joe Manchin is so powerful right now that if he called CBS or NBC, or if he called Rogan, if he called Howard Stern, somebody to give him a big platform for 30 minutes in a conversational style. Me.
Yeah.
The point being, he could endear himself to most Americans, even those in his party that he's going against, if he sat and explained it.
Yes,
man.
that's it. That's exactly right. Yes.
What an opportunity.
It's a huge opportunity. And he hasn't had that. I mean, he's gone on certain shows and explained certain things. But it's like
prepackaged shows.
Yeah, but a true conversation, true raw conversation. I think, like, that's why I liked when Dan Crenshaw went on Rogan. Like, I like him. He's a Texas congressman, the Navy SEAL. Very true and open
Tulsi
conversation.
Gabbard was
like very true and true conversation, because Rogan gets it out of them, and that's when you see the human side of them. Right.
But and he's known, but he's not in a position of either relevance like Manchin is now.
No, right, yeah, exactly. I was just giving the example of how a platform like that can really bring attention to a person.
So I'm going to bring up Bernie Sanders for a second, because philosophically, Bernie and I aren't in touch with much, if anything.
Right.
But I gave him huge credit for going on Rogan, because I saw the human side of him, and I also tried to follow the logic of some of the things that they bounced around. That to me is so. What Sanders does, or is willing to do, most of his compadres from both parties will not do.
Right.
That was a conversational style to sit there and take some shots or whatever.
Yeah.
And why won't politicians do that? It's such an incredible opportunity. I have to believe that there were some moderates, some pragmatic people, and some conservatives, I would think, that watched that Rogan interview, and a couple of them probably felt like I did. Wow, I give him kudos for going in there and doing that. And there is some logic behind a few of the things he talked about. So I no longer dismiss him. Like, if I hear Sanders talking, I want to hear what he has to say. It endeared himself as a human to me. He's reaching the people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why won't they do it?
Well, one, I think there's a fear there of the soundbite, right? I say one thing wrong that haunts me forever. Like, people will take that soundbite, like the Trump soundbite, grab him in the you-know-what. That's haunted him forever. Like, you go on one of those where it's a very raw conversation. It's not scripted. You don't know the questions.
So they're afraid.
They're afraid. It's a lot of it's fear, right? Now, Bernie Sanders has such a platform. Like, he didn't really give a fuck at that point. He's like, saying something wrong on here isn't going to impact his political career in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. The people that are kind of just in it, that are kind of still trying to get their feet under them in politics, I believe it's a fear. It's a fear, because it's a very vulnerable platform.
No
right?
question.
Like, having conversations like this is vulnerable. We don't know where this is going.
Right.
We can talk about whatever comes up. There's a vulnerability to this style of conversation.
Sure.
So yeah, if I run for office someday, I'm sure there'll be sound bites of shit I said on here that'll be like, come back to haunt me. But oh well, that's the risk you take. Politicians
It's
in
authentic.
general,
You shouldn't care.
no, yeah, I don't. Exactly, I don't give a shit. Like, that's me. Like, it's my true beliefs. Could those beliefs change over time? Absolutely. But I think that's a lot of the problem with politicians. And because they're also run by the machine, right? It's not the politician that makes the decisions. It's the people behind them that make the decisions. And that's a lot of what like people don't get with politics. They're just a figurehead.
Yeah, it's so, and that's
it's their handlers.
It's almost a joke. I mean, like you hear things like the majority whip.
Yeah,
that comes from like
I mean it's the truth.
They're whipping them back into submission.
Yes.
They're whipping their folks back in. I mean it's laughable, but it's not.
Well, and it's interesting because one of my fraternity brothers, he was a state rep, and he's no longer has a marketing agency. And I had aspirations of running in the past, and him and I talked about it. And recently he was in my office and we talked, and kind of just because he gave himself a 10-year. He's like, I'm retiring after 10 years, regardless if I get reelected or not. He wants to retire. That's what he did. And he said the reason why he gave himself a term so he could get things done. He said, I was able to reach across the aisle because I knew I was done. It wasn't about re-election. He says the problem with a lot of the state reps, it's a 2-year election cycle. So you get in.
You're constantly campaigning.
Your first 3 months are kind of learning. Here's the machine. And then you do a couple things the party tells you to do. And then you're campaigning the next year. He's like, so people, it's just kind of like you're in a constant like campaign cycle.
The 2-year terms are insane.
Yeah, like you might do one thing of significance or put your name on a bill of significance, but you're not making waves. You're not reaching across the aisle because you don't want to upset the party for the lack of not getting reelected. It's a machine. It is a machine. And that's the problem.
So speaking that honestly, one of the concerns could be you're being disobedient.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, you're not doing, because think about it. When you run for office, you typically get the one of the party's committees behind you to help fund you, to put the people in place. You piss them off, they're gonna be like, fuck you, do it yourself. And all that money, all that support goes away. And then getting reelected is very hard.
Candidate.
Yeah, exactly. Then it's hard to get reelected.
The system is
fucked.
The premise, though, yes, but the premise of the system,
yeah,
is simply corrupt. It's corrupt.
Yeah,
and I've had people argue with me that they think it's not. It's how we maneuver the system. But I think that the two-party system is simply corrupt because it does not provide for moderation. It does not provide for a third option.
Yeah.
And it does not really provide for indifference.
No, there's
absolute.
And there's an agenda behind everyone, right? Like, did you see the Pelosi interview where she was on her press conference like a week or two ago? They asked her about insider trading.
I heard that she said that you should be able to.
Yeah. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
She's got to be going senile, right?
Her husband's made so much money trading stocks right before shit happens. That was the whole point of the question, right? It's, in my position is, yeah, people should be able to make money, right? Okay, I get that. The capitalist society. But if you choose a life of public service, there are certain things you have to give up for the benefit of the public.
You should not be able to enrich yourself.
Correct.
On the
after
public
politics, cool. If you want to get speaking engagements, they all get rich after. But if you're trading on insider information on bills that may or may not pass,
and it happens every day.
It's like, that's kind of a fucking criminal thing, in my opinion. It's
I don't think there's any kind of there. I mean,
it probably shouldn't happen.
I mean, like
it shouldn't happen, because if you choose that life,
I don't get it.
You've chosen a different life.
The Clintons were paupers when they came into power. Paupers.
I mean, look how much money and power they have now.
I mean, I don't think Barack Obama was a wealthy person when he became president.
No, not at all. He was a state senator. He was a senator, state rep, and then was a senator, or state senator, and then was
a representative. He was
I can't remember if he was a representative.
I don't think he was a senator. I thought
he was a state senator. I know that.
Then he became a congressman.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. And it's just like, and now he has a fucking $8 million home. And
you have to ask the hard questions like that.
I mean, a $400,000 salary for 8 years.
I'm sure the Bushes had money before they went in there, but I'm sure they enriched themselves as well. It isn't party specific at all, but it's a weird system. Like, I want to say that I don't think Joe Biden. I think Biden came from humble beginnings too,
and he's only been a politician his
entire
life.
Well, yeah, he's a career politician.
Well,
Bill Clinton was the same way, I believe.
Yeah, but I mean, but he was also the governor. But Biden's been a senator, like making what, $200,000 max. And how do you have all these homes and millions of dollars, and your kids got all this money?
The math doesn't add up.
No,
the math doesn't add up.
The fact that Hunter Biden's selling paintings for $400,000 that look like the fucking something you'd find on a third grader's wall.
But here's the thing. I think there's a lot of fuckery there. But what I'm saying though is I don't even care about that because he's making money off of fame, and they all make money off of fame and their name. And that oftentimes you're making money off the name. You just happen to have the same name that somebody else made famous. That happens in everyday life. I don't give a shit about that.
I agree with that.
I think the whole thing with him is a joke. But I understand that. I don't understand how Biden himself or any politician who goes to work on the public's behalf can legally enrich themselves like that. That's the thing that drives me. I mean, now the latest topic on the news from both CNN, although the viewpoints are different, CNN and Fox both talking about Fauci's salary today, and Fauci, and I guess Dr. Fauci,
he's the highest paid government employee.
I think he's at $400,000 a year, which is $427,000, which is more than what the president makes. And his retirement is like $325,000 a year or something like that. Now, again, it's a lot of this stuff is proportional, and to the average person on the street, yet I understand the guttural reaction is, damn, I get it. It is a lot of money, and I think job performance is making people even like it less.
Oh, that's exactly. That's why it's coming into question.
But on the public dime, when you get into the hundreds of thousands of dollars in a pension, but from the government, from a public entity, I think the average folk on the street don't dig that, man.
No, I agree. And I thought I saw it was more than that for some reason. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, I think you're right. And and again, like, the whole Fauci thing's getting called into question now because people are tired of his performance and tired of him. I think people are tired of his fear mongering. Like, don't gather with people. Even if you're vaccinated, don't gather with people.
Well, he's definitely enjoying celebrity, and that's the sour part of it for me, even beyond the actual stuff that comes out of his mouth.
Yes,
he was the rock star epidemiologist, right? And he bought into that hook, line, and sinker.
Absolutely,
which I think is
it's off-putting.
Very much so.
Very off-putting.
Good word.
I mean, it really is, because when this first happened, like, I liked him. I'm like, this dude's smart. He's pragmatic. He was very much.
I felt the same way.
He was just the even killed to Trump's off the fucking rails.
Yeah.
As time went on, it's like Fauci started getting this arrogance.
Well, he also became political.
Very political, and he got this arrogance to him, which I didn't like. And it was just like, I am Fauci.
He said, I am science. He actually said he didn't even say represent science. He goes, I am science. Now maybe he was trying to say I represent science.
Exactly.
But he said, I am science.
Right.
And that was not a good soundbite.
Freudian slip.
Not a good soundbite.
But think about it. Like, he's now saying, well, people are just like, fuck you, dude. Like, I'm going to do what I want. Like, when you go on, 2 years later and say, even if you're vaccinated, which I told you, I stood up here a year ago and said, once we have these vaccines, this shit will be gone. It'll take care of everything. Now I'm telling you, guess what? It's even worse. Even if you're vaccinated, do not gather with people. Like, are you, like, what? Like, people are just like, dude, what the fuck? Like, dude, what the fuck? Like, that's the only thing you can say.
Wouldn't you love Rogan to get a hold of Fauci?
Oh, Jesus.
I would love that interview. Come on, Joe, make that happen.
The whole thing with the vaccine, which I saw a meme, and again, I'm not anti-vax, but it was a funny meme on Facebook. It said, if I got 3 smallpox vaccines in a year and still got smallpox, I'd have some fucking questions. And it's like, that's where I think people have gotten to. It's like, we were told a story that, like, we have to get through this. The vaccines are coming. And science was amazing to get this shit done fast.
No doubt.
Like, unbelievable what science has evolved from all of this. We get these
free
things.
markets and capitalism at the core of it all.
Correct.
Right.
We get these things, we do it, and now we're saying, we don't know what the fuck we're doing. We can't control this shit. Vaccines they're keeping people from dying, but they're still spreading it. And now, even if you're vaccinated, you still got to wear masks. You still shouldn't gather. Like, people are just over it at this point. I think a lot of people are just like...
Well, you can't keep... Here's the thing. Even if the lies are not initially intentional...
Right.
you can't keep lying to the public continually, because there's going to be a point where they tune you out. It's like, you know, it's the boy that cried wolf. It's some
That's
point,
what's happening.
Some point in time. And then that's a dangerous position.
Yeah.
And, you know, I will tie Biden into this. We already have a compromised leader.
Yeah.
In his age and his cognitive ability, my opinion.
Sure.
And now you have this uncertainty with this pandemic. It's kind of the perfect storm of dysfunction right now.
Yeah.
And while I try to not dive too deeply into the whole politics aspect of it, it's very unsettling to me.
Yeah.
On a geopolitical front, that this man and this administration, run by this man, I think, is in charge of the free world in the year 20, coming up on 2022. It's a little unsettling to me.
I mean, I agree. And again, like we said before, like whomever is president in this country, I want to succeed, because it's the country we live in, right? It's good for everybody. Like, I would never wish anything bad on any president. And I want to see Biden have a successful presidency for this country. To your point, I do think and if you can't see it, you're just not looking. Like, there are cognitive like things that aren't
were there before he was in office,
and the stress, I think, of office has made it worse.
Certainly.
And I think the people that are around him don't make it any better. I mean,
the makeup's not helping. They're whiting him out where the eyes are just like this.
Yeah,
there's something going on.
There really is.
It's not helping. They think it's helping, but it's not. He's turning into a ghost.
And the problem is, it's just the vitriol in the. Like that statement they put on the White House website, you see it a couple weeks ago, where it was like, for the vaccinated people, you've done great, blah, 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 blah. Like cheering. Then for the unvaccinated, it's going to be a cold, dark winter of death and severe illness.
Is insane.
Like, how do you, as the president,
that's your leader.
You're supposed to unify us
and be uplifting.
Like, and you've basically said, we're going to segregate the country, vaccinated versus unvaccinated. Like, that is not a good look for a president.
I think this. I think it's a foregone conclusion that there's going to be a change politically here in 2022. I think anyone doesn't acknowledge that unless something happens between now and then, but it's sure trending that direction.
Yeah, 100%.
The liberal wing of the country, the liberal powerhouse, did it to themselves. The message is so convoluted, and right at the top, by seeing the president come out with that statement demonizing unvaccinated people,
right?
From a political standpoint, if you're a political advisor, if you're advising him, you're looking around at the room like, who the fuck suggested he say this? Because
who typed that on the website?
Because there is no doubt in my mind that the unvaccinated in this country includes a lot of the groups within the Democratic Party.
100%. Like, that's what I didn't get. I'm like, statistically, if you look at the makeup of that party, a majority of some of those groups are unvaccinated people.
Yes. And conversely, there are a lot of conservatives that are vaccinated.
Right.
And
exactly.
You just, you're not. His message probably, I'm guessing, was to show authority. In turn, it divided and actually hurt his own political party.
Yes.
I think.
I completely agree. I think there was such a better way to do that. You could have said, for the unvaccinated, we're here for you. We encourage you to get vaccinated. We'll make it available to you. We understand you may have some questions and concerns, but let us help you understand that it is safe.
And what a missed opportunity.
That's the perfect opportunity to say, okay, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Let me ask you this question. Lex Friedman. Familiar with Lex Friedman's podcast?
Yeah.
Lex is the young Russian kickboxer.
No, you're talking about.
Sure, okay. Lex has some very interesting guests on there, and I have no life, so I listen to all these folks, right? He just had the CEO or CFO of Pfizer on.
Okay.
He went to Pfizer and sat him down for about an hour and 10 minutes.
Okay.
Excellent conversation. Lex Friedman can do that.
Yeah.
if you really want the country to be vaccinated and you want the fear to go away, and why not open dialogue? You're the president of the fucking United States.
Yep.
How about this? You send out a little message there and you say, hey, I'm the president of the United States and I'm really strongly requesting an audience with you and the CFO of Moderna. We're not going to do them the same day. I'm not putting all you jaloops in the room at the same time. Yeah. We're going to have 3 or 4 conversations. We're going to get Johnson & Johnson in here. We're going to get Moderna. And I want to sit down with a casual setting with a couple microphones and I want you to talk to the people and help me explain to them why it's necessary for the benefit of all to get vaccinated. How about that for a potential idea to communicate to the public? I mean, we have all this technology, right? You obviously control most of the media. Yeah. It ain't like you can't find a microphone.
Yeah. I mean,
but they're not doing it.
Well, because again, what's part of a politician's goal is to keep the country divided so they have problems to fix. You know, if you start trying to unify, I mean, if you really try and unify everybody and then everybody gets along, what do we need politicians for? What problems do we have to solve? Politicians like to keep shit divided and keep shit difficult and angry because I'm championing for you. No, I'm championing for you. They have teams to be on. And what if everybody's kind of like, yeah, we're good. Like, what do you need politicians for? Like, it's a game to it. They create problems to solve.
Oh, if we were just kinder and nicer to everybody and we weren't out like, smashing and grabbing, and stealing stuff and burning people's houses down and shooting people in schools. And if people were just nicer, even in the grocery store, if you go to McDonald's and order a Big Mac, if they treated you like you were treated at Chick-fil-A, if that permeated society,
that's exactly
you might not have to be dealing with the fodder of politicians every day, 24/7.
No, because people wouldn't give a fuck about them, and it's just because people are. We're living in such a fear-based emotional state right now in this country, and the media just feeds it every fucking day. Omicron, it's so bad.
That's a lot next
crazy cases. Now it's going to be, what's the next variant? Okay, Omicron's under control. Now it's the spring. We need a new springtime name of
they're going to I think they lull us to sleep. Like, I oh my God, I can remember this clear as a bell. A buddy of mine called me, I want to say it was around July, maybe. He goes, when's the last time you were a Drudge? I said, I haven't gone to Drudge Report in a while. He goes, yeah, go look at it today. And it was like Biden had saved the world.
Okay.
COVID is over. The end of the COVID era.
Yeah, no.
There was like, it was nuts. Like, cases at the lowest they've ever been. Okay. And I'm like, wow. I go, ain't that something?
Yeah.
And he said to me, he goes, until the next variant.
Right.
And sure enough, now if you look at it as of yesterday, I think, because I went there yesterday, it was unbelievable. You think the world had just died, right? The entire world. We had been invaded.
Yeah.
Bombs have been thrown.
Yes.
We're dying. It's dystopian.
It's completely mind fuck. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, it is something. I get it. People have had it. I know, and it's terrible. And I had it last year, and I get it. But it's like, the media has fed into fucking with people's heads, and people are, again, it's that fear-based emotional state that's causing all this irrational behavior, in my opinion. Because we're going to look back 3 years now and be like, I'm going to look back and be like, I was wearing a goddamn camouflage mask, like camouflage handkerchief with rubber bands around my ears to go to the grocery store. Like, that's what I was fucking doing. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, think about that.
Oh, I know.
Like, we're going to look back at some of the stupid shit we did. Like, didn't leave a house. We're afraid we're going to walk outside and just drop dead.
Oh, funny shit. The funniest shit in the world right now is these plastic bubbles that are outside of restaurants. So you couldn't eat inside. Right. So they put a plastic bubble up outside around the table of 5 or 6. But you could go in there, hermetically sealed practically. Right. Yeah. And exchange all your germs in there, but you couldn't be inside, so they created a temporary outside. They actually created a temporary inside outside.
It says, what was the saying? It says you can't eat inside restaurants unless inside is outside. And it's like people are literally just like creating like outdoor restaurants, like in a big closed-in tent. It's like, but because it wasn't in the,
that was probably worse.
It was worse.
It had to be worse.
Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I remember like places by me that would have like literally those ones they put up at weddings that have actual windows on the tent, like completely enclosed with fucking windows, like a full-fledged restaurant. I'm
yeah.
like, this is not any different
there's
than
some
me
place
walking
in
there.
town. I think a very well-respected restaurant in town that's bragging about them. They're out again, and they're all lined up there downtown, I think. Yes. And they're saying, come join our igloo-like experience.
No.
So now it's an experience. Like they tried to, and I get it. That's creative marketing.
It is creative marketing. They got to pay for those things.
I don't want to eat in a plastic bubble with my friends and fine dine and pay a couple $100 for a meal in a plastic bubble.
Yes. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that.
It's not like a thing.
One thing I will say, though, is I do believe, like, people talk about Allegheny County. It's like, oh, it's crazy. It's terrible. It's like, I've been out a lot, and it seems almost back to normal in a lot of places. Like, we were at a restaurant last night, again, packed. No one had masks on. A few people did. Yeah. None of the servers really did. It felt like normal. It felt like people were out having fun. No one was concerned. No one was worrying. So I think a lot of that fatigue has set in, where it's like 2 years of all this shit, we still haven't fixed it. Like, I'm just going to go about my life and take my chance. That's what I feel like is happening, because I'm seeing it,
Are we getting healthier? Do you think anyone's paying attention, on a broad scale, to vitamins and nutrition, and maybe cut back on the dope, cut back on the booze, cut back on the devices, so to speak?
I think probably a small portion of society has, but I think in the end, people are just, because again, it's just like, it's been fucking 2 years. We've done everything. We can't get this under control. It's still going on. Like, they're just going to live their life now and take their chances with it. It's kind of what I see.
Europe's crazy. My wife travels for American Airlines. She's over in Israel right now, and we don't know if she's coming home because she has to get a test, I think, almost every day. She's tested negative, but it's like we do have a lot of caustic behavior in this country, but it's interesting to watch overseas, especially in Europe. From what limited that I see, citizens are a little more obedient over there. They kind of like move around in lockstep. I look at Australia. I don't think there's a lot of pushback from the citizens there, and they've locked them fuckers down.
That's a fucking movie over there. That's a fucking scary. I would not want to be in Australia.
Yeah, that's like it's almost like a science fiction movie.
Yeah, like you can't fucking leave your house or we'll come find you. Like that's a different world, man.
But I think Europe, like not all of the countries over there, but the European Union's kind of in lockstep with.
Yeah,
and that's unsettling to me.
It really is, and that's why America's such a great country. Mm-hmm. We're founded on freedom, and we need to fucking remember that.
All we don't have to look is just our northern neighbor, because Canada's out of their mind again right now.
Absolutely.
I find it funny. I've been really paying attention to hockey, especially when I was ill myself for a while, and all of the Canadian. So you have the Americans and the Canadians in the NHL, these teams. Like, all the games are getting canceled. The ones that are in Canada, the Canadian teams can't cross the border or vice. No, we're not allowed in.
We're not allowed in.
Because I think Vancouver played Anaheim. That was permitted because we're letting them in. Yeah. But Anaheim couldn't go to Vancouver and play. It's like, really?
None of this shit makes sense. Look at the NBA. Like, if you're not vaccinated, you can't play in the city of New York. And they were just like, now I saw an article where they called back a bunch of unvaccinated healthcare workers because they fired a bunch because they weren't vaccinated. Now they hired them back because they have shortages. It's like, what are we doing? What are we fucking doing? Like, it's just,
we got to quit dividing humans.
That's it. Like, we just need to be unified. And guess what? That makes the world a better place. We're all going to have differences, right? We have you and I have differing opinions on certain things, but in the end, I think we all kind of want to be happy. We want to help one another. We want to be successful in our own mind and live the right type of life for us.
Well, I want to be able to respect other people's differences. I don't want to be punished for my choices.
That's exactly right. Like, we should be able to have a discussion. That's how the country was founded, on debate and discussion and disagreement.
Right.
And we don't have to agree. We can agree to disagree, but I'll listen and understand your point of view.
100%.
And I would expect the same from someone else I'm speaking to.
Oh, 100%.
That's what we need to get back to. And if we get there, I think a lot of things will change.
You think?
I hope so. That's the goal, man.
One last thing, I'll throw a curveball to you.
I love curveballs.
Have you paid attention, or have you seen any of this Jeffrey Epstein thing? That just is their name is Giselle?
Ghislaine Maxwell. I don't know. They say it 50 different ways.
Ghislaine.
All I know is, you didn't hear much about it. Now, granted, it was in federal court, so you can't have cameras in federal court and things like that. Not like the Kyle Rittenhouse trial where you could have cameras in state court.
Right.
I think it was a lot of powerful people that just got their ass covered.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about. So
I believe that.
The limited information that I was able to derive was that this Epstein did a lot of bad shit.
Yeah.
Involved a lot of very high-name people.
High powerful. Both sides of the
over
aisle.
the years. Yep. Oh, yeah. Political party means nothing.
Yep.
He was an equal opportunity person.
Absolutely.
So the mechanics of that trial was rather quick with very few witnesses called,
names dropped. Yes.
So is this another example of just the powerful is going to be able to just skirt by again? Now maybe there isn't anything to any of this.
Do you know who
I probably doubt it.
Do you know who the prosecutor was?
No.
James Comey's daughter.
And how is that even allowed?
Well, it's a whole.
How is that even possible?
I mean, there's not. I mean, he's not involved in it, but he was
the
attached to a lot of very
but even
high
the
power
inference,
people. Yeah, exactly.
like,
So it was a very. I mean, you would have thought that the lid would have been blown off a lot of fucking people with this whole thing. Like if that Ghislaine Maxwell or she fucking took the secrets to bed with her.
And this is the reason why, we've got crazy conspiracy driven people in the country, because they're seeing things that just on the face of it don't make any sense, and they usually involve power and money.
Yeah.
And it leads people to start asking why. And this is another example.
This one was the prime example of like this. It was a pure cover up. I mean, I don't want to say. I mean, she got convicted, right? She got convicted. She's going to go to jail, but a lot of names were covered up. Like people were celebrating after that verdict because they didn't get they weren't brought into it. Their name wasn't brought up. They're good. Epstein's dead. She's in jail. Game over. I survived.
Now the betting pool will be if she'll survive jail or not.
I give her 6 months. 6 months. I just think
and all this is playing out in front of everybody.
Yeah.
But because we're in a pandemic,
right,
it'll get a pass. The government said last year that we have UFOs. We don't know where they're from, but apparently they're kind of real. Yeah. Which, if you said that 10 years ago, would have been the biggest news story on the planet.
People would have lost their mind.
Now it's kind of like people like me on podcasts, talking about it, but the rest of the world just
that's this thing too. So it's unfortunate, but I believe a lot of people got their ass saved.
I think it's horrible. I don't have an iron in the fire. It's all fodder to me, but because I'm so removed from it. But on the principle of it, if any of those things that have been bounced around were actually true, starting with that Prince Andrew,
absolutely,
how it doesn't, all of that that's just happened with her in that trial is the reason why you have additionally unhinged people in society.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even know what to say about it, honestly. It's pure power and money. That's really what it just boils down to. That it's power and money got their way. She's convicted. They weren't brought up. Move on. That's really what it is right now. Epstein's dead. She's in jail.
If she had been if she had been found not guilty, how would anything really be different then?
She would have died. I think she's gonna get killed one way or another. I do.
And that'll happen, and it'll be a little blip on the radar, and then we'll just go,
It'll happen right before the next variant comes out. It's like, oh, Lambda's here. By the way, Ghislaine Maxwell died in jail.
Let's name the next variant. What's it going to be called?
It's Greek
Lambda.
It's Greek alphabet. I mean, I should know the Greek alphabet, but I don't remember it. But it's going to be a Greek letter. Yeah, that's it.
There was that movie. Oh God, man!
Revenge of the Nerds.
Lambda. But did you have a good time?
This is always a good time, man. I really appreciate it.
Dude, this is. It's
always fun. It's fun to be back.
Yeah, and the feedback is really amazing too. People really dig you stopping by here. And
I appreciate it, man. It's I'll come anytime, man. This is the end of 2021. Let's bring in a good 2022.
So I'll be at the 3-year mark here in March.
That's awesome, man.
It's crazy.
It's been a great 3 years. It's been fun.
It's an amazing 3 years. Yeah,
absolutely.
brother. We're still doing it. That's what's amazing about it.
It's just getting started.
That's right. All right, friends. Rocco Cozza, we're out.